Hey there, everybody. Gary from Constricted and Addicted. I wanted to bring to light a few more things I failed to speak about in the video last night about taming down your reticulated python. So stick around, find out what those 3 topics are. We'll be right back. Last night, in talking about taming down your reticulated python, there were 3 really crucial things that I'm sure were expressed, but they really weren't talked about. And for me, one of them is confidence. I know in owning my first reticulated python, I wasn't really confident because I had heard rumors about how reticulated pythons were, especially feeding responses and things like that. And I had to be confident in going in and getting that snake out of the enclosure that it was in and being okay with the possibility that it might strike at me, that it might not be very comfortable in my hands, that there was going to be some work. I had to be extremely confident in myself and handling that animal, that there was going to be a positive result at the end. Because when they're this size, you don't want to have to be going through that. So confidence is one of the utmost important things I think you need to have as a retic owner when you're learning how to handle that animal, when you're learning the behaviors of that animal. Confidence is of the utmost importance in learning your reticulated python. One of the other things that I forgot to talk about was the fear of getting bit. When you have a brand new reticulated python and it's unsure of its environment, it's unsure of you, maybe it hasn't been handled very much, there is the chance that you're going to get bit. And someone like me, for instance, I don't like getting bit. I'm a big baby when it comes to being bit by any sort of a snake, even if it's king snake. I just don't like being bit. But if you're going to own a reticulated python, if you're going to learn a baby snake, or even, a new snake for that matter, because I've gotten a couple of snakes that have been not babies, that have been 2 years old, they're subadults, and I've had to get past that fear that handling that snake is, I'm going to get bit. It's important. You just have to be safe about it. Like I said before, what I would do is I would wear gloves, a large jacket, so that if the snake tried to bite me, that I wouldn't get hurt, nor the snake wouldn't get hurt. So the initial fear of going and getting that snake can be daunting. You're going into that enclosure. It's trying to strike at you. You may have it in your hands. It may strike at you. For instance, when I had Cora was striking in air. I would walk by my wife with her. She'd strike out at my wife. She did bite my thumb, and it was all because she was just scared and she hadn't had a whole lot of handling prior to getting to me. So with Cora, it really shows that if you put in the time, if you put in the effort, you put in the consistency, that you can, even a little bit older of a reticulated python, you can tame them down, you can get them puppy dog tame, and like I said, you can make them your best friend if that's what you're after. And then the other thing I would like to talk about is the feeding response. Feeding responses can be extremely difficult to get over if you're a new reticulated python owner. If you're not used to an animal that is going to target you when you get next to that enclosure, when you start opening that enclosure, again, that can be a very jarring experience. As soon as you open up that enclosure, that animal might come straight out. It might take a strike at you. And if you're not used to that kind of a response from an animal, it definitely might make you think twice about going back and getting that animal out again. So it is important that you learn the behaviors of your snake, especially reticulated pythons. It's of the utmost importance that you understand that these are food-driven animals in their homes. My experience is that if you work with these animals and you handle them all the time, you're never going to get rid of that feeding response. But what you can do is you can turn that feeding response off to get them out. And that is the case with many reticulated python owners. You have to learn how to do that. I use a hook, and all I do is simply rub the snake with the hook. And what that will do, it will basically turn the snake into a different direction. Usually when I open up an enclosure, whether it's Emma or it's any of my other reticulated pythons, they're like torpedoes. They come out, they know what's going on, they come right to the glass. And when you open up that glass, if your hand is anywhere near that opening, you are putting yourself subject to getting bit. And a feeding response bite is not what you want. This feeding response bite, they will latch on and they will coil, and I've never had it, so I can't speak to it, but I can guarantee you it's not a fun experience to go through. And if you go through a feeding response bite, that may turn you off from owning these animals ever again. So it's extremely important to be safe, to understand their behaviors, and to know how to open their enclosure safely so that they don't get hurt and so that you don't get hurt. So these are important things to know that I don't really think I talked about too much last night when I put the other video up, is that it's important to understand their behaviors. It's important to understand that when you have a brand new reticulated python, whether it's a baby or it's a little older, there is a possibility that you're going to get bit in learning that snake. And you have to be confident, because if it's too easy for us to give up, and if we just put the work in, we be confident, we're consistent, and we learn the animals, they are probably the most rewarding animal that you can own. And that's just my opinion. I love my reticulated pythons, and as you can see, they get big. So make sure that if you buy a reticulated python, that you are ready for the massive amount of snake that you are in for when these guys get 3, 4, 5 years old. Hey guys, I appreciate it. We'll see you on the next one, and thank you.